So I still remember the first staff meeting we had, like the first leadership meeting we had after Cassis decided to cancel Sunday morning services for the first time. And I remember thinking I was so shocked that Glenn had decided to cancel a Sunday morning service for like the first time in this church's 60-year history. Like COVID had just started to become a thing, just started grabbing headlines. It was a big deal in New York, starting in Seattle. Like it just didn't seem to me like this huge of a deal. But here we were canceling services for like maybe 2 weeks, 2 Sundays in a row. And I remember so clearly in this leadership meeting, Glenn and other pastors were saying, all right, we got to think about what does ministry look like if we're not meeting in person on a Sunday morning? What do we need to do to reach people and be a part of people's lives? And one of the pastors suggested, he was like, yeah, we got to take this seriously, because what if we have to cancel services for 8 weeks? And I remember in that moment thinking, 8 weeks, that's crazy. Why would we cancel services for 8 weeks? What is happening? And fast forward to now, and we have canceled services now. I think we're at like postponed services for 19 to 20 weeks now. Students just didn't go back to school after spring break. No prom, graduation was completely different. We didn't get a chance to go to summer camp. We don't know when students are going to be physically going back to school. Nico barely made it back from the Dominican Republic. TikTok is this huge sensation because everybody's bored in their house and think they can dance. Like people's jobs have been lost or threatened. I mean, lives have completely upended. And I still remember March 11th thinking, 8 weeks? That's crazy. And I don't know about you guys, but during that time, during like the first few weeks that COVID was changing everything, I remember being like, okay, we got this. Like, yeah, I can work from home for a few weeks. That's not too crazy. Yeah, gyms might close for a little while, but I'll work out from home. Like, okay, I could go for a few weeks without seeing my friends. Okay, I can wear a mask for a few weeks. Like, I just remember thinking we just have to buckle down for the next maybe 2-3 weeks, and we can get this, and we can get through this, and we're gonna be just fine, and life is gonna go back to normal. And then here we are, months later, still not at the end of everything. And normal just seems so far away. And I don't know about any of you guys, but I have found myself, instead of being like, yes, we could do this, just being like, I am so tired. And sometimes I think I am so annoyed. I am so angry. Sometimes I am scared, or I'm anxious, or I'm frustrated, or I'm confused. And I just have this range of emotions that have made the idea of holding on to hope that we can get through this, that we'll get to the end of this. There's something after COVID. This hope so hard to hold on to. And honestly, in the midst of all of this, I have found holding on to hope in God really difficult to hold on to, especially when I have felt isolated or I have felt alone through all of these changes and everything that's going on. And a couple weeks ago on a Sunday morning, one of our pastors here named Ryan, he shared a similar experience. It wasn't COVID related, but he shared this moment that happened in his life when he was 17 and his mom got diagnosed with cancer. And he shares about in that time, his mom's fine now. She's in remission, everything worked out. But at that time, he remembers clicking into this like optimistic realm. He's like, we're going to get through this. God is going to pull us through this. He's going to heal her. He's going to step in and take care of this. And he remembers thinking, all right, I just need to pray for the doctors. Like, we're fine. She's going to move into recovery. And then he shares about her going in for her first surgery. And it went well, but it wasn't the last. There were so many surgeries after that. And he shares about remembering when she went in for her first chemo treatment. And it was difficult, but she pulled through it, but it wasn't the last. There were so many chemo treatments after that. And he remembers her losing her hair. And he remembers her going through moments of feeling sad or depressed, whether it's because of what was happening to her and the medication she was on. And it just became so overwhelming. And suddenly this like, we got this, we can get through this, started to get harder and harder to hold on to. And so he shares this story about going to clarinet practice, and he knew his teacher pretty well, and his teacher looked at him and just like, hey buddy, how you doing? And out of nowhere, Ryan shares, his eyes filled with tears, and he felt himself crying and saying, I'm just so tired, and I don't know if I can keep holding on to this hope by myself. And this is such a difficult, raw moment for a 17-year-old to be going through, anyone, and he shares how this teacher did a small but just remarkable thing. And he paused their lesson and he pulled out 2 chairs and he said, let's sit down and let's talk, man. And he just sat with Ryan and he listened to Ryan and he shared in Ryan's grief. And he said, we are praying for you and we are praying for your family and we're praying for your mom and we are with you, carrying all of this with you through this difficult time. And Ryan shares and he kind of reflects how he had been trying to carry hope alone, hope that his mom was going to be okay, hope that God had all of this. He'd been trying to carry it alone and it had exhausted him. Ryan put it this way. He said, it is so hard to hold hope alone. It is hard to walk between promise and pain and hold on to hope alone. So this week, we are talking about how when you are part of the tribe of the one, we never hold hope alone. We always hold hope with others. So Ryan shared these verses from a book of the Bible called Hebrews. And we've talked about this book a couple different times in here for high school ministry, but it's about a letter written to these people who are going through difficulty. Their life has been upended and they're finding it hard to be included in community. Sometimes they feel isolated and they're not really sure what their next steps are going to be. These Jesus followers, these members of the tribe of the one. And so this letter is written to them during this very uncertain time, very similar to uncertain times we walk through right now. And this is what the writer says, and this is what Ryan read and taught out of a couple weeks ago. And it's Hebrews 10, verses 22 through 25. And it says, and since we have a great high priest who rules over God's house, let us go right into the presence of God with sincere hearts, fully trusting him. For our guilty consciences have been sprinkled with Christ's blood to make us clean. Our bodies have been washed with pure water. So let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope that we affirm. For God can be trusted to keep his promise. Let us think of ways to motivate one another towards acts of love and good works. And the first thing that Ryan points out that this writer says is to draw near or to come fully into the presence of God, trusting him. And Ryan made this point. He paused here to reflect and he asked this really simple question. He said, when was the last time that you drew near to God? Because for many of us, we can let something as simple as guilt come between us and God and us and the relationships that matter. And we allow this guilt. Maybe we're not who we thought we were going to be through COVID. Maybe we didn't know we were going to take this so hard, or we acted out, or we said things that we didn't mean to say, or we have these doubts and we have these questions and we have these things that we let build up between us and God. And Ryan said so simply, what Hebrews is saying is, because of Jesus Christ, that story that holds the tribe of the one together, because of Jesus's love, we get to walk into the presence of God and draw near to God all the time. There is no guilt, there is no doubt, there is no question, there is no fear that can ever get between us and God. And so he says, don't ever stop drawing near to God. So ask yourself, when was the last time you drew near and you sat and you prayed? When was the last time you drew near and you were honest about where you were at and how you were feeling and some of your frustrations, some of the things that you were going through? When was the last time you drew near to God? And then Ryan pointed out the next part. And the next thing that the author says is he says, hold tightly to the hope that we affirm. And Ryan pointed out that sometimes when we read this as I hold tightly to the hope that I affirm, that I need. And we kind of look at it as do better, hold tighter, hold on to your faith so you can do this. And the truth is that's going to burn us out if we try to do everything by ourselves. But the writer of Hebrews is writing to a group of people who said, we hold tight to the hope that we affirm. Basically saying, in the tribe of the one, we never hold hope alone. So this Wednesday, I'm going to play a clip from Ryan's sermon for this part. And I want you guys to go find it. It's on the Casas Church website to listen to what Ryan has to say about this point. Because he just says, he's like, as simple as when that teacher sat with him and carried hope with him, it changed the entire experience of how he experienced hope. Hope in his mom getting better, hope that God had this. And right now, more than ever, we need to be with people who carry hope with us. So we're going to talk about that this Wednesday night. And if you are at home and you're not able to join us, hopefully you find a safe place to ask, when was the last time you drew near to God? And who is someone that's holding hope with you, even while we can feel isolated or we can feel apart? Okay, see you guys soon.